It's been a while. I'm so excited. We're here again. Mr. Mark Deals with me.
That's me. That's me.
He's always got a cool hat, or he's just showing his handsome bald head. I'm jealous.
Jealous of my bald head? Well, I know how to fix it, Steve.
My wife won't let me. Is
Fair
it
enough.
cold? You're in Atlanta. Was it cold where you are? Because you look like you're all...
It was like 37 degrees this morning. It's
my
back up to
goodness.
like, I think 60, 61. We don't get snow over
Yeah.
here. How about yourself, Steve? Are you
We're
getting
cold,
snow?
but yeah, we're used to it. That's why I'm surprised that you're wearing something. Anyway, I thought we'd have some fun starting out while people join us to maybe go through some Thanksgiving trivia. So if anybody watching wants to participate, you can enter it in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or on my Facebook page. Question number 1, and I'll give like 10 seconds because I know there's a delay, but we'll see if anybody can answer this. On what date was the first Thanksgiving held? And we're really looking for the month, not the year. There's another question about the year. Any ideas, Mark? What do you think?
Honestly, Steve, I guess not November. I was thinking of a Thursday, but I'm out. I don't know these questions.
Okay.
So I'm glad you sprung them on me as well. So I look about as incompetent as anyone else joining in. Like, oh gosh, I don't know.
Okay, so you're not sure is the answer.
I am not sure at all.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the 1600s as far as the year. I'm trying to narrow it down to a century.
I'm just
Am I
talking
in
about the
right
month.
ballpark?
The month of the
month.
year. You don't have to name the year yet.
October.
Anybody got a question? We got one comment here. It's probably DR showing up from Nashville. Let's see. Jennifer Longworth's here. Great. The month, nobody actually knows. So, Mark, you are unsure. That means you are correct. Nobody really knows. They thought it was between late October and mid-November. So there you go. Second question. In what year was the first Thanksgiving celebrated? So you had a guess. Somewhere in the 1600s? Narrow that
I'm
down
going with
to
a century. 1692.
1692? Okay. Anybody in the chat want to venture a guess and no Googling? Well, although you can ask ChatGPT all you want. They're not always right. So the actual year is 1621. So you were in the correct century from the start.
Wow. Okay.
All right, one last one. Where
Older
was
than
the
US.
first? Yeah, where was the first Thanksgiving celebrated? We're looking at...
Oh,
I'll
I know
give
that one.
straight, but if you got the...
I grew up
city?
in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll let somebody in the chat answer before you do, and then we'll move on with today's festivities. Nobody in the chat is guessing. They're all wondering. Okay, Mark. What's the answer?
Jamestown?
No.
No.
Got a state?
Oh, Virginia. I mean,
No.
they didn't have states back in like this
Oh,
early
that's true.
1600s. Yeah.
Yep.
They were colonies back then.
Plymouth-
Yeah, this is very much U.S. centric for anyone joining overseas. So we
Right.
apologize for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Plymouth Rock. Yeah. There's other questions here, but we don't need to do all that. We're here to learn more about Podfest. All about... Oh, I did the wrong slide here. Come on, Steve.
Steve's new, everyone. Sorry about
There
this.
we
We're-
go.
We're doing this live.
All about Podfest. It's been a while since we've done one of these live streams. I don't remember where all the buttons are.
All these buttons.
Yeah. Mark and I will be at Podfest. I actually wasn't going to be at Podfest, but they tricked me into going because they have announced the editor pass. How conniving is that?
It's funny. I saw Chris Kermissos was in my town like less than a week before. Actually, before and then after he announced that. I think so. Anyway, he mentioned something about doing this editor thing. I'm like, really? But he did it, which I'm glad, because some conferences they'll do like there's a creator pass and a pro pass, and like what's the a sponsor and all of those different levels. Like, what does that mean? But it's good for like folks like us that work on different shows, but don't necessarily have a show of ourselves, but very deep into the podcasting industry. So I like that.
Yeah. And there's lots going on that's specific to editors and that's going to benefit editors. So Angelina's going. She's first time, I guess. Yeah, first time ever after being 4 years in the business. I can't wait to see her again. And we've actually got a discount on Podfest passes. So if you're interested in getting a 10% discount, you go to, well, let me put the
Now you
banner
tell
up.
me.
We have a page with all the resources that Mark and I are going to cover here. podcasteditoracademy.com/all about Podfest. Because we're talking all about Podfest for podcast editors today. So all about Podfest. And there's an editor's pass right here. And if you watch the video, it walks through exactly how it works. Just scroll through, follow the directions, but it's pretty easy. Of course, a lot of times, where do you put your discount code? Which one of these do you select? Blah, blah, blah. But they do have like the creator pass. They do have the expo pass. They do have the speaker pass. They do have the exhibitor pass. They have the sponsor pass. But we want the editor pass in this community. And they're actually going to have passes or the lanyards that say editors on it, which I think is really good.
And an editor lounge, right? Or am I foreshadowing? Should I not talk about that now or later?
They are supposed to have a lounge for us. Yes, we're supposed to have an area where we can go and do some work or maybe even have some chats. I don't know how buckled down it's going to be, but Podfest has been very liberal with things as they should be. I think it's fantastic for us to be able to sit down and have a conversation without all the distractions in the hallways. Although talking in the hallways, Mark, is always a good
hallway
thing for
track?
us.
Always, yeah.
Yep. So we also go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, but if it lasts more than like a few seconds, like, hey, come into the editor lounge. So anybody with an editor pass, like if you're talking with a potential client after a few seconds, like, if you got more time, it's busy, it's loud out here. Let's go into the editor lounge. And yeah, you can get your potential client into the editor lounge if you got the editor pass. Or I see Jennifer on here. Of course, she's got the VIP. We'd let Jennifer Longworth go where she wants to go. Chris should, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they'll let us bring people into the lounge area, but we'll see if you have to have the editor pass or not when we get there. That's something I haven't cleared up with them. It wasn't a question I thought I'd ask. Now, the other thing that we're going to be doing that's really networking in the hallways is the Ask an Editor booth. That's something that we've done in the past. It's such a great way to highlight the fact that you're the expert. You are an editor, and it's not like you're in the expo hall where everybody's just walking by to get the chocolate or the pen or the mug or whatever. You're there to answer questions. We're facilitating that by having this big banner. As you can see, there's Jennifer Longworth. Hey, Jennifer. Posing in front of the banner from, I think it was 2023, or maybe it was 2022 this one came from. And so anybody who walks by can talk to you about whatever their problem is with their podcast, and then you get to show that you're the expert by answering their questions. And the way you want to do that is once they announce the schedule, we're going to announce some sessions here during this call or during this live stream. But one of the things that we'll want to do once the session schedule's out there is figure out when you would be available and pick your times to go and actually staff the booth. You can see this orange button right here. And you'll be able to pick that. And it's going to take you to a spreadsheet. And that's where you can enter your information on when you would like to staff the Ask an Editor booth on any of those 3 dates. And you don't have to be there in that exact block of time. We just want you to, sign up when there's a slot. We'd love to have somebody there every hour of the day. The problem there is, Mark, there's a lot of cool sessions that we may want to go to.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool sessions. Steve, is it possible? Can you put the URL up for that sign up sheet for anyone that wants to take advantage of that?
Well, everything's at this, and they can go right and click that button.
There you go. There you go.
Because you don't need a long Google URL. This will take you right to a button that says pick your spot. Now, the sessions. You want to talk about the sessions?
Well, in a moment.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about Ask an Editor booth, the background behind this. So I think we've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years now. We've been doing it for quite some time,
least
right,
3.
Steve? At least, well, I know at least 3. Some of the conferences, for example, Podfest, they've done things like Marketplace where it's kind of free for all. Like you want to do guest booking or social media management or podcast editing and production. It was a separate room. Sometimes it was down like 3 hallways. You had to knock 3 times on a door and have a secret code.
Yeah,
They're not doing that.
special
Yeah.
handshake.
Special handshake. Yeah, thank you, Steve. So luckily we talked with them like, hey, that's not really working for us in our community. But we've been doing this Ask an Editor booth where Steve and I, we don't staff the booth. We may come by, but again, we're just fans of the editors that staff the booth. And that way we have not just one, but 2 editors that staff the booth. Do you have like hour segments, 2-hour segments?
Yeah.
Okay. So that way, when people come by like, hey, I got a question. I just came out of this session. I'm going to this other session. I got a question, for an editor, a producer, podcast manager, that sort of thing. And they can, those that staff the booth can answer those questions. And typically they put up business cards there if they're not there at the booth, or obviously if you're staffing the booth, like, hey, if you have any questions on this, here's where I am at my, podcast editing production studio, freelance, whatever. And yeah, people get working on it. And in fact, I know we've had some feedback and some testimonials where people picked up clients from that. So I'm glad, one, that people pick up clients, and 2, Steve, you and I are usually busy at these things. Not that we've been to one together for quite a while, but yeah, we don't have to staff the booth ourselves, which it makes it easy for me. We come by like, yay, and go whichever editors are there. So yeah, I love that. So that's the whole background behind the Ask an Editor booth for those that have not been there before.
Yeah. We've had some fantastic times there too. There's sometimes where we just all end up there because we just want to hang out with each other too. So
yeah,
it's just the schedule of being at the booth is flexible, but we did want to just give people the opportunity to look and say, hey, this would be a good time for me to be there. And, maybe I'll come hang out with you because I might actually be there a lot after all. I mean, that's where our peeps are. Now the sessions, let's talk about the sessions because we just got the list. This is not the complete list and there haven't been official announcements to the schedule, but
we were allowed to announce this, right, Steve?
That's right.
Yeah, we got the nod from the Podfest folks, I think 2 days ago, that we can share this information. I don't think they shared it in their newsletters and everything, but it's not.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
So yeah, so we get to I guess break this news to you, but it's not super secret. Obviously, we're streaming this, so yeah, a little bit. I hope not. Gosh, no, we did ask that question specifically. Can we share this?
Yep. So shall we go through the list?
Let's do it. What kind of sessions, and this is just a subsection, a portion of the editor-specific tracks and sessions that there are at Podfest. Let's do it. Let's do it, Steve. What's the first one? Gosh, who's it going to be?
Yeah, and before we get into this is what we have been asking for years. You go to a podcast conference and there's nothing about one of the biggest pain points in podcasting, which is post-production. And the first one up is our friend, there she is, Jennifer Longworth.
It's Jennifer. Hey, that's me. Things your podcast editor wants you to know. Oh, gosh. I can imagine a couple that would end up in this one.
Yep. It's going to be a fantastic presentation. Maybe we don't need to see that presentation, but the people who are there definitely will. Second up.
We'll be back there clapping back like, yes.
Oh, I'll be in the front one taking pictures and cheering her on. Absolutely. 3 simple tools to power your podcast editing business. I'm curious about this one myself. I wonder what it is. Are we talking about bookkeeping? Are we talking about editing software? Are we talking about, what's the one, the ClickUp or Trello? But Molly Ruland. Yeah. You want to take this one, Mark?
Sure. From podcasting to profit, building a streamlined media business from scratch.
I'm intrigued. I don't know if I know Tyler. I'm going to have to go to this one. Yep. Next up, we found out there's sound design in fiction by Kevin Seaman. Sound design, man, that's a lot of work, but it's so cool. It is so cool. And the editor survey results from last year. Ooh, a little bit of foreshadowing this year. Those that do sound design make a little bit more than those that don't. So this is probably a session to sit in on. 6 or more strategies for building a successful, sustainable podcast editing business by Ashley Dixon Ellison. I can't wait to see her again. I met her a couple of years ago at Podfest. She's so friendly. She's always got questions about Descript because, well, we all do. But she's been fantastic. I can't wait to meet her, see her again, and hear her session. Building a Business Beyond Yourself by Chris Hill. Do you remember Chris Hill from a couple years ago?
I do remember Chris Hill. And honestly, this is a question I've heard from not just podcast editors, because Steve, you and I, we've seen people sell their podcast production business to others, as well as like, CPAs, attorneys, and doctors and private practitioners. A lot of times they build a business around themselves. And then, when they, okay, not to age you and I, Steve, but when they get to a certain age, you're like, all right, how do I hand this, successful running business off to somebody else? So the first step is building it around somebody other than yourself. So yeah, this should be an interesting one. I'm very near and dear to my heart right now.
Yeah, and this is something we couldn't cover. We cover it in the Podcast Editor Academy as well. I mean, basically everything's about building a business around being a podcast editor in the Podcast Editor Academy.
Streamlining your podcast editing workflow for business success. I certainly like this one, and maybe they'll have some little bit of, Julie will share a little bit of the 80-20 Pareto rule on, does it make sense for you? Does it make sense for a client? Does it make sense for your business and business success? So I'm interested to hear about this streamlining your podcast editing workflow.
5 AI tools. Everybody take a drink. AI. We said AI. Take a drink. 5 AI tools that will speed up your podcast audio editing into script. I saw this presentation.
Luca's back.
Yes, I saw this presentation. Was it Podcast Movement? He did it, and it's amazing. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know all this stuff, and then he does one thing that I should have known, one little thing, and it wasn't even like the highlight of what he was talking about, but he showed it because he had a live demo on screen, and I was like, oh, that's how you use that thing, and it changed how I used the script. It's those types of things that just makes going to a conference and even the sessions make it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and the script is one of those, I guess we'll call it a doll now. It's been 6 years since we've been doing the podcast editing survey, and back then it didn't even make a blip. 150 people respond. No one mentioned that they were using the script as their editing platform. Now more and more people are obviously using it, so this should be a pretty popular session.
Yeah, I remember when we got them as a sponsor for the Podcast Editor Conference in 2020.
2020, yeah.
And I was like, wait, isn't this just transcription software? No, so much more.
Yep.
Blew me away.
Yep.
All right, next one. How to scale a podcast production company to 6 figures even without prior production or marketing experience by Ben Albert.
Yeah, Ben wins the longest title award, definitely for this editing session, but it's very descriptive. Without mentioning the script. So yeah, how to scale your podcast production company to 6 figures, and which again is important. I'm going to do my third now callback to the editing survey. Those that are editing for more clients sometimes make more, sometimes make less money. So I guess it's all about how to scale. So Ben will teach us.
Yeah. Sounds like this would definitely be for somebody starting out. So this is a beginner course.
Yeah, beginner, or maybe if you're breaking through that plateau, like, look, I've only got so many times during the day, and I've got so many profitable clients. How do I get more? This might be a good session.
Yeah, we'll definitely learn more when they do announce the schedule and they get the app out there, because that'll also have the description, not just the title. We're what's the summation? I think it is of we're assuming on these things.
Yep.
Good old Heather's going to be back, and her keynote last year was amazing. And she even named the Podcast Editor Academy in it, which is really cool. Design your ultimate podcast production workflow in Notion. And Notion's one of those tools that helps to automate processes and keep track of projects, which is amazing. These are the types of sessions I really love.
Exactly. I've always thought of Notion as just kind of like, note taking. But yeah, it's certainly grown in its capabilities over the years. So I'm looking forward to learning from Heather on that.
And drum roll?
Drum roll for what? What's the next one? What's that? Oh, one more. Okay, let's do a drum roll. What could it be? Steve, what could it be?
It could be Mark Deal talking about how to make a living as podcast editor, manager, or producer.
Wait, I see Steve Stewart's name on there too.
With co-founder of the Podcast Editor Academy, Steve Stewart.
Wait a minute. You and I are going to be together for the first time since 2020?
That's right. That's right.
In person, I should say.
On stage, too.
On stage too.
On stage. That's right. Yes, it's going to be a session that, well, what else can I say? How to make a living as a podcast editor. You're going to make a living, which means how much do you have to generate? We're talking a little about expenses, but really how do you get clients, things like that. Mark, what are you going to talk about?
Honestly, I'm not going to talk about expenses. I'll talk about top line. You know,
Yes.
the editors and production studios, whether they're freelancers or small groups, on how they're making money, how to make more money. The history of the podcast editing production business, the professional production business, as well as the future. And I'm not going to mention the two letters that's going to make Steve want to take a drink. But really, what does the future mean for us? As professional podcast editors, producers, managers. What's the podcasting landscape going to be in the future? And why? Of course, I'm biased, so here's a little snippet. I really think that people like us, editors, producers, managers, have a place in the future of media production, specifically podcast production. As I said on a previous show that Steve mentioned the other day, I still think podcasting is the one way where your clients can reach their target market when they're not looking at their screens. And with everything vying for screen time, podcasting is going to reach them when they're not looking at their screens. And I think that folks like us can benefit from that by making our clients sound the way they think they do in their head.
And or look.
No, and or look. Sure, yes. No, you're right. Well, yeah, there's video. Yep.
Yeah, but audio, you're right. The audio is just so much. It's the one. Yeah.
I'm an audio first person, so that's my bias. But yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many benefits to the audio portion of it. Okay, so then that's the sessions that we know of. I believe they're still picking out a couple more, confirming that the speakers can come, make it, whatever. So we've got the sessions. We've talked about how to get a pass with a 10% discount. All these resources are available at this URL, podcastediteracademy.com/allaboutpodfest. Once the schedule is announced officially, then you can go and take a look and see when the sessions are that you want to attend. And then you can figure out when's the best time for me to go out and lead generate by being at the Ask an Editor booth. Then we've also got, boy, there's a lot of clicking to get the screens back up. We always have a meetup. I don't know how we're going to do this yet. We're going to figure it out. We've always figured it out. I've usually had some kind of a plan and usually announced about 2 weeks before the event. So right after New Year's, January 1st, we should have a general idea on what we're going to do. So stay tuned. We're going to have another podcast editor meetup just to hang out with each other. If it's not just at the Ask an Editor booth all day.
And usually it always happens. Yeah. And I remember that picture. It's from 2021, right?
No, 2022, because they didn't have a 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That was with the experiential track.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was 2021. But yeah, all the years start to blur together.
I could be wrong.
21 and 22. Okay.
I could be wrong. Then maybe it was May of 2021. They had it in May one year. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we've got a couple other resources that will be helpful to you on that URL. Again, the URL is podcastediteracademy.com/allaboutpodfest. If you're looking to make a reservation, we've got the link there. And if you want to save on lodging by finding a roommate, you can click on the link here that's Find a Roommate, and you'll see a spreadsheet. Uh-oh. You got to be kidding me. I tested this earlier and it was working fine.
Steve's going to fix that.
I'm going to fix that. But let's just do this over here. There will be a spreadsheet you can put your name on. You can say if you're looking for a male, female, or other type of person to share a room with, or if you need a roommate, hopefully you can go to that and you can find somebody who's listing a spare bed so you can split the room. And then the other thing on that page, if I could just find it right, there's another tab on there. So if you wanted to find someone to ride share, so if you're flying into Orlando, like I'll be doing on Wednesday night, hey, is there somebody else coming at the same time? Let's split an Uber or a Lyft to the hotel. You could do something like that. It's on the same spreadsheet, just a different tab. So those are most of the resources I think we have available because there's going to be so much activity for us this year specifically because there is a focus on editors. There's an editor track, there's an editor pass. There's all the things we're doing to coordinate along with Podfest to make you guys focus the focus of the of the hallway at the Ask an Editor booth, or the focus of the tracks. This is going to be a great networking opportunity. I know there's going to be a lot of action.
Yeah, Steve and I work very hard to give all the editors an unfair advantage, and probably see that over the years where there's like more sessions on editing, and now there's like badges, for editors. We really try to give the editing community an unfair advantage. Well, I say unfair, but really we're just trying to represent the 10,000 editors that we have in the Podcast Editors Club. Like, hey, if you want to come to a conference, usually it's like our creator, like, no, I edit. And I think people are, well, as we'll see in our presentation, the past, present, and future of podcast editing and the professional production. Like, I would need somebody to do that sentence for me, as I just couldn't really get it out of my mouth. But really to give you, like I said, an unfair advantage, so people can see that, you're somebody that makes a living by making them sound good. And we try to facilitate that recognition, the viewership, and those discussions, and the business that follows after that.
So go and get all the resources at podcasteditoracademy.com/all about Podfest. That's where all those links are. More information will be available there as we get that. So there will be a spreadsheet that shows the actual times once the schedule's been announced. You can copy that spreadsheet, or better yet, bookmark this tab on your browser, on your computer, or on your phone, and then we will remind you. A couple weeks, and definitely as we're leading into the days of Podfest, that link is there. All the resources are there. So refresh your schedule, get your volunteer times in there. And of course, if you have any questions, you can reach out directly to me, whether it's in the Facebook group, email, reply to a newsletter, any of those ways you can reach out to me. Any last thoughts, Mark?
Well, I'm all bundled up because it got cold here in Atlanta. It's like 60 degrees. So I'm looking forward to Orlando in January.
Great. I'm gonna go and fix this URL. It's driving me crazy. I don't know why it's not working. And where is it? I'll go figure it out. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let us know. And if you're going, let us know. I want to know who's coming. We already know speakers are going to be there. Who else is attending? We saw Angelina. She's going to be going. I almost got Clifford to go. Clifford from Asheville, but he's got a lot going on. So,
yeah, Asheville. Yeah.
Yeah. Surprised that he was actually open to the idea. So we're looking forward to it. So thanks for hanging out with us here today. Oh, I should probably talk about the next. What day do you guys recommend getting there? Good question. Mark?
It really depends on your own social battery. For me, I usually try to get there the day before, the day after, like the day before it kicks off and the day after the keynote. That being said, I kind of gauge my own social battery. For those that have known me for many, many years, that's why Steve is the front man. Right, Steve, and me not so much. So really, it depends on that. There's plenty of stuff going on, like the day before and even the day after. So really, check the sessions, and then if you want a little bit more, I guess, opportunities to mingle with other people, you can expand it out there. That's really a non-answer. What's your answer for that, Steve?
Mine is get there Wednesday night and let's go to dinner. Yeah, I'm flying in on a Wednesday night. I can double check that. But yeah, all the events really begin on the 24th, although the 23rd is still a good day for, wait, no, that's not right. Excuse me. I got the wrong week up on the screen. Yes, arriving Wednesday night.
Jennifer's getting there on Tuesday night, she thinks.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think Jennifer's one of those who gets an Airbnb. So she might have some need for the room share doc.
There you go.
Yeah, unless she's already coordinated with other people. But yeah, we've got all the resources there to make it so that you make the most out of the trip. Look, these conferences are expensive. I get it. And you want to get the most out of being there. Obviously, you see their sessions that we're going to learn from, but then that whole networking opportunity. That's the reason I go to these conferences. Networking and possibly getting leads, clients. Building credibility if you're speaking too. Yep.
True. I remember my very first one, Steve, in 2014. I think that's the one I met you at, first podcasting conference. And I had a room by myself. You know, granted, I was in my 40s now, in my 50s, almost in my 50s, I think by Podfest, not quite, but it was one of those like, wow, I was kind of missing out on the whole room share. So now I always make sure to book something with like 2 beds, because it's like, for me, like adult camping. But yeah.
Yeah, we've had some good times. Plus, I think it's a really good idea to actually park yourself in the hotel and not at an Airbnb. Yes, you might save some room off site, but you could take stuff back to your room. You can go back and ask Mark, go back and take a nap.
Take 3 showers a day like I do, neat freak or germaphobe. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of reasons. But we've got all the resources there for you. So even if you go to Podfest's website, we've got directions directly to the things that you're looking for as a podcast editor and all the things that we're doing in coordination with them. All right. I think we've covered everything that we have. And hopefully we've gotten some people some great information to make the most out of Podfest. Mark, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Steve, thanks for hanging out with me. Everyone, thanks for joining us today. And we hope this information was insightful. And we hope to see you in January in Orlando for Podfest.